It ain't too late at it.
Good morning and welcome to the Indy Boomer Show. I'm Mary Pat McKee with Indy Boomer, and I'm sitting here this morning with Ann Poindexter from Campbell, Kyle and Profit, a managing partner over there. She's been on the show before and every time gives us amazing information, and she and I were chatting right before the show, and we have some, again, amazing information to share with you. But before we do that, a couple things. One is we want to thank Logan Street Signs and Banners, Wofford Theater, Jim Wofford, and everybody for allowing us to have this show. We're very grateful. And there we are is the cover of the Indy Boomer magazine. That is a September issue with Dr. David Wolf on there. A lot of you may know him. He's an astronaut, went to North Central from Indianapolis, and have a great feature article on that, and hope that you get a chance to read that. And also, Ann is not only with us today, but she's with us today, but she also writes an article for us in the Indy Boomer magazine on our legal page, and always, again, great information.
Thank you.
Let's jump in. And we were talking about advance directives, and of course, because I am not legally inclined by any tiny little means, I don't know what that is. Tell us what an advance directive is, Ann.
Well, the simple or the basic definition of an advance directive is instructions about your future medical care.
Okay.
That's it. That's the definition. Now, unfortunately, the confusion comes in because people think that an advance directive, that sounds like one thing.
Yes.
Doesn't it?
Well, it does to me.
And it's not.
Uh-huh.
An advance directive can be one of many different things.
Mm-hmm.
So, I get a lot of calls and they start like this. Mom's in the hospital, and the doctor wants to know what her advance directive is. You did her estate planning, so where's her advance directive?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Mom may or may not have an advance directive.
So it's not a standard thing you would do when you put an estate together? Or is that...
It is a standard point of discussion for any estate planning. If
Okay.
someone comes into my office, I'm going to have a discussion with them about advance directives.
If they want them or not?
Plural, correct.
Okay.
If they want them, because that's a part of the discussion. Some people will decline them, at least in my office.
Mm-hmm.
But let's kind of go through very quickly, because I told you there's this listing. It's not any one thing. It can include a whole variety of things.
Correct.
Some of which can happen in my office or with my assistants or some other lawyer in a lawyer's office, and some of which don't happen in a lawyer's office. Some advance directives have to happen in the doctor's office.
Well, give us examples of advance directives.
Okay, so here are some of the most common ones, and then we'll talk about the least common ones.
All right.
But the most common ones are the ones that are going to happen with the assistance of an attorney, or the ones that I'm going to talk about in my office.
Makes sense.
So an advance directive can be a part of a power of attorney. We've talked about powers of attorney before, just giving someone else the power to take action for you.
Correct.
And most people tend to think about those as financial powers, but you can put a medical power in
And a legal power.
And yes,
Okay.
but you can put healthcare powers, medical powers, in a power of attorney.
Okay.
So power of attorney is one type of an advance directive.
Oh, that is considered an advance directive?
It absolutely is.
Okay.
So there's
Very good.
one. Another one is a healthcare representative. So a healthcare representative declaration. That is a separate legal document, and that is another way to give someone else the power to make medical decisions for you.
Could that be different than the power of attorney person?
Absolutely.
Do you want it to be?
Well, what you don't want to do is you don't want to have two documents where you give someone the power in a power of attorney to make medical decisions and someone the power, because then you've set up conflict.
Right.
Okay. Worst
We
thing
don't
you could
like
do.
conflict.
No, worst thing you could do. So no, you don't want to do that.
Okay.
Okay. So there's two types of advance directives.
Okay.
Here's third type advance directive, again, in the most common, which is a living will.
Right.
And we've talked about those, I think, before.
Yes,
Living
we
will, but probably one thing that had occurred to me we haven't talked about a living will before is the opposite of a living will, which is not very common.
Is that a dead will?
No, it's a life prolonging procedures declaration.
So if you're really sick, how far did it take you? Is that what you mean? Okay.
Well, and some people want every medical intervention.
Yeah.
They want the doctors to intervene and try and keep them alive as long as possible. That is what some people wish for.
Right.
It's not the most common. But again, we're talking about advance directives, what an individual's wishes are for future medical care.
And hopefully they're there to make those decisions.
Right. So living will most commonly is, no life prolonging procedures, and then yes or no to the feeding tubes.
That's in the living.
That's a living will.
Okay.
Life prolonging procedures is yes, prolong my life using life prolonging procedures.
And that's an advance directive?
And that is an advance directive.
Okay. So there's a big difference.
There's a big difference.
You wouldn't have both, am I understanding? I mean, so
No.
if you had living will, you wouldn't have these advanced prolonging directives, correct?
Well, prolonging is the opposite of the living will. Living will is no prolonging.
Gotcha. That's, yeah.
So no prolonging or yes prolonging.
Okay. So you've either got one or the other.
One or the other.
Okay, gotcha.
Now, here are some of the less common ones that can happen in consultation with a doctor.
Okay.
So, and these are actually forms that have to be signed by a doctor. So they don't happen in my office because
Right.
they have to be signed by the doctor.
But they can get the forms from you to take to the doctor? I mean, do
No.
you discuss them?
They're actually State Board of Health forms.
Oh, well, there you go.
Okay.
Okay.
The first one is an out of hospital do not resuscitate order. So again, somebody will call and say, does my mom have a DNR? Well, I don't know. That's really a question for the
DNR
doctor.
being do not
resuscitate.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So that would have to be signed by a doctor. And I'll get that question if mom is in the nursing home or the
and I
assisted
remember
living.
that. We used to keep my parents in the freezer. So, I mean, because it was a place that we knew that if something happened to them, that the medical people could go straight to the freezer and then get the advance directives.
Right.
Is that crazy?
No.
Okay.
A lot of people do that.
Okay, good.
A lot of people do that. So, an out of hospital do not resuscitate form, State Board of Health form that an individual can sign in consultation. The doctor has to sign it too.
Okay.
Okay?
So really, they have to go to the State Board of Health. I mean, you can't go to your doctor. He won't have these forms.
The doctor can print it off just as easily as you
Okay,
and I can
okay,
off the
all right.
internet.
Very good.
I printed one off this morning before I left my house to come and see you.
Okay.
To show it to you so we could talk
Well,
about it
maybe
this
I'll
morning.
just use it.
Well, there you go. You can take this as soon as we're done, and you can take it to your doctor.
Okay.
But, and then the next one is probably our newest advance directive. And when I say new under the law, I mean about 2 years old. And
Okay.
it's called a post.
Yes, and I
Form.
remember you writing about that.
I did.
In the Boomer one time. Yes. Tell us
Right.
more about that.
Physicians order scope of treatment.
Okay.
And some lawyers are going to take issue with this, but I'm going to call it a super living will because it breaks it down into 4 categories. It talks about do not resuscitate. It talks about medical interventions. It talks about antibiotics, and it talks about feeding tubes.
Okay.
So and you're only eligible to execute these if you're chronically ill or you're terminally ill.
Okay, maybe going into hospice. I hate to stop on that note, but we're coming right back. So give us a couple of minutes. We'll be back. We'll talk more about these advance directives. Thanks.
Everyone knows it's easy to find first-run movies in the big theaters. But where can you go to watch your favorite classic movies on the big screen for the perfect night out? Why rent a flick when you can rent the entire theater? Call today to reserve our 32-seat theater for your next event or just stop by to see what's showing this weekend. 14 by 7 foot screen and the high quality digital surround sound system offers all the amenities you would expect from the big theaters with a laid back atmosphere and comfortable seating of your own home. Wofford Theater at 1744 South 10th Street in Noblesville gives you the classic movies you want with a big theater experience.
You know, when Margaret and I decided to sell the old estate here, we had only one choice in signage. Logan Street signs and banners. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore, but rather located on 10th Street on the south side of Noblesville. Well, we sold the old beauty, and we were able to buy this wonderful estate. And we had so much money left over, I was able to buy this beautiful 1968 Eldorado Cadillac for Margaret. Only 472,000 miles. Margaret loves it because it's got those big seats and that heavy-duty suspension to support her svelte frame. Next time you're looking for signs or banners, call old Jim at Logan Street Signs and Banners, 773-7200. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore.
Welcome back to the Indy Boomer Show. I'm Mary Pat McKee. I'm sitting here this morning with Ann Poindexter, and oh my goodness, we just went through so much information, and we've got so much more to do, so I'm going to try and make it quick. First of all, I want everybody to remember to go to CVS in Marion and surrounding counties, pick up a copy of Indy Boomer magazine. You can also go to our website at indyboomer.com. Some of the information that Ann and I are talking about today is on our website from past issues.
It is.
So you guys, this post that we were talking about, the physician's orders for scope of treatment, is on there as well. So I want to jump back in. First of all, I got to say one more thing. We are on the radio Monday through Friday, 6:30 p.m. on Hamilton County Radio. So if you're not watching the show, you can catch it there. And the other thing is, and give them a phone number to call you.
846-6514.
Okay. Yeah, because this is really good information, and there's so much of it that, you're blowing me away. Let's go back. We were talking about advance directives. In the first half, you talked about the different kinds of advance directives, where this post fell into, and that kind of thing. I'm going to give you back the floor. Where do you want to go from here?
Well, I think the overall point is to make sure that people know that there's not any one advance directive.
Correct.
Number one, there are options. And one option that we haven't talked about so far is that you can give instructions orally to your doctor. You can have a conversation with your doctor that your doctor records in your medical records. Mm-hmm. That's an advance directive. Remember the definition.
Whether you have the official form or not.
Right.
Okay.
But if it's a part of your medical records, it's there. Is it the best advance directive, in my opinion? No, I don't think it's the best, but it is an advance directive. I don't want to have... What I don't want to have happen with any of these is I don't want individuals, particularly as we age, for you to make your own decisions and then fail to have conversations with your family about them.
And that's what we were talking about on break. Talk about that.
Because when we make decisions and we don't have conversations about them and we take our family by surprise, then sometimes our families don't believe that we really made that decision.
Right.
And so sometimes our families don't believe that the doctor properly recorded that instruction.
Mm-hmm. And they'll challenge it.
Right, and they'll challenge it. Mm-hmm. And this is all about respecting individuals' instructions and choices.
Right.
And the more we let people know, I have done this. Mm-hmm. This is my choice.
Right.
Even if you don't like it, if you know ahead of time and you've been made aware, you're more able to accept and not
follow
challenge
through and fulfill it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And the other thing I want people to know is what happens, because I get this question too. What do you mean Mom doesn't have an advance directive? You did her estate plan.
Well, I think it's ignorance. Because
Right.
People don't know.
Right.
They just
and
don't understand.
my answer is I can't make people do things. Why don't I exercise every day? I mean, my doctor says I should, and I know I should. The answer is a choice on my part.
Right.
Some days I just don't choose to. And some days we don't choose, or we can't make up our minds to do something. And some people don't choose to execute an advance directive. And here's what happens when they don't.
Okay, please.
The law says that there are others who can make decisions for them if they're no longer able to. And that includes children, spouses, and adult siblings. If it's a younger person we're talking about, it includes a parent, obviously.
Right,
But,
right.
if we're talking about older folks, usually we don't have a parent alive to make a decision for them.
Correct.
That's okay until we've got a group of those folks who don't agree.
Yes.
And that's okay until the doctors get a hold of one person who makes a quick decision, and then everybody is criticizing that person who made
like
the
a
quick
sibling
decision.
problem. Yeah.
Right.
But you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of one reason that this whole Indy Boomer magazine started is because you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And I think sometimes people just don't know about this information. Do you find that? I mean, like the lady calling you from the hospital.
I agree. And speaking of what you don't know, there is one other resource, believe it or not, that I would direct people to. The Indiana Department of Health on their website does have a brochure which is written in pretty plain English about advance directives. And so people can go there and read that. I'll tell you, I think it's a starting place. I still think you ought to follow up with a lawyer of your choice, and I think you ought to follow up with discussions with your doctor. But there is that available resource for additional reading if people wish to do that, and it's a free resource.
Right, exactly. And and we have this conversation quite a bit on this show, but typically the conversation is having that conversation with mom and dad, moving them to a retirement facility or someplace safer than where they are. But what I'm hearing and seeing is that in that conversation of that, they also need to be talking about all this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What would you say is the most important thing that, say, a baby boomer taking care of their folks, trying to get everything squared for them, what's the most important legal piece of paper they need?
Oh, my goodness. The
All right,
most important...
I'm making her pick one. This is terrible.
I don't know that...
All right, give me the top three.
The top three, I mean, if you had to have one, then I'd say the first one is definitely a power of attorney. And then I would want not only the financial powers, but the health care.
Right.
Medical
and
powers.
that's something I think people don't know, too. A power of attorney is not just for medical or financial. It can be different things. There can be different kinds of powers of attorney.
And I would want it to be a general, durable power of attorney so that it includes virtually every kind of power it can in there. And durable so that it endures mom and dad becoming incapacitated.
Right.
So I would want it to be a general, durable power of attorney. That would be the first one.
Okay.
The second one is that I would want at least for an individual to have mom and dad make a will. If not a trust, at least a will.
Just a will, not specifically a living will.
At least a will.
Okay.
Yeah. So that mom and dad's wishes are clear if there is any property left when mom and dad die. So that there's not the fight amongst the siblings, or other heirs about how it's divided. That mom and dad have clearly made their wishes known.
Right.
So that happens. And then, also, I guess my third one would be the living will.
Okay.
So that they can make their wishes known there.
Okay.
So those are my top
three.
Absolutely.
Okay. I hate to do this, but Dang, time has run out again. There's just so much good information. Ann will be back in probably 6 weeks, couple months at least, and talk to us about more interesting things that we really need to know as baby boomers for ourselves, as well as taking care of our parents. Before we go, Ann, I have to put a plug in for Boomer TV on Sunday mornings, Channel 8, 10:30. Patty Spittler, we've got a brand new show this week, so please tune in for that. And Ann, thank you so much for being on the show.
My pleasure.
We'll see you all next time.